Chapter 99. A roaring sound that nobody could have heard in their lives. The audience gathered at Mount Hua discovered that the collision between a human's fist and another's face could create such a violent sound and rotate. Son Woo-ryang, who was hit, rotated in the air and swish. Blood poured from his nose like a waterfall as his body spun through the sky. Maybe if I do it properly, I can create a rainbow. A rainbow made from blood. Was there anything more horrifying than that? It felt like the line between common sense and nonsense was breaking apart. Son Woo-ryang, who spun like a bloody windmill, fell to the floor and convulsed. Looking at the young disciple's state, Chongmyung's voice rang clearly in their ears. I'm not joking around. Chongmyung spat on the floor and pulled out the wooden sword around his waist. Get up, you son of a bitch. I'm not finished yet. My anger doesn't die with one hit. Chongmyung was roaring like a lion, but it was far from regal. Such dirty and petty words. These were Yoonjung's honest feelings. What? Sama-seung's beard trembled. What is this? It happened in front of his eyes, but he couldn't understand what had happened. Chongmyung seemed to disappear for a moment and then reappeared in front of his disciple before delivering a blow. The disciple flew into the air, spun around, and then collapsed. That was what Sama-seung saw. The problem was that he seemed to disappear. Then I missed that kid's movement. Even though he didn't care about the third-class disciples' battles, did it make sense for an elder to miss the movement of such a young disciple? No, it can't be. Sama-seung denied what he saw, but this wasn't his fault. Even if someone other than Sama-seung stood there, they would have reacted the same. Anyone would surely deny a situation that went so far outside the bounds of common sense. You cowardly bastard! It was then an angry voice came from the side of Sama-seung. Making a surprise attack when he was speaking. Mount Hua must not have any shame. You wicked bastard! That was how it seemed to the children. Well, that was to be expected. The higher level the opponent, the more significant it is. For the second-class disciples, it wasn't surprising that they lost sight of Chongmyung's movements for a few moments. But for Sama-seung, it was different. He was an elder of the Jungnam sect. Sama-seung calmed his startled heart and concentrated again. Son Woo-ryang, get up! Get up, Woo-ryang! The sound of his disciples cheering for Son Woo-ryang could be heard. Sama-seung stared at the fallen child with his eyes still wide in shock. I must be mistaken. It had to be. No, it was undoubtedly a mistake. Wake up, brat! I didn't even use ki. Don't be such a crybaby. Chongmyung looked at Son Woo-ryang with blazing eyes. The disciples from the Jungnam sect were cursing him, but Chongmyung made it a point to never listen to barking dogs. The moment one steps onto the center of the arena, the fight begins. Why should he waste his time on courtesy by letting his opponent say whatever they wanted? If he gets sent to war, is he supposed to shake hands with his enemies, share a few drinks, and then start fighting? Son Woo-ryang staggered and got up. Although he was struck suddenly, it was a fist that lacked internal ki, so he wouldn't lose consciousness despite the pain. What if Chongmyung had used internal ki? Death. There was no need to ask. Watching him rise, Chongmyung tapped himself on the shoulder with his wooden sword and observed his enemy. Get up quickly. Don't waste my time. Are you okay? Chongmyung's voice, which had sounded annoyed and irritated, quickly softened. Slosh. This was because Son Woo-ryang's nose was a waterfall of blood, gushing non-stop. So much blood was flowing that the front of Son Woo-ryang's clothes were dripping wet as a pool of blood collected at his feet. Even Chongmyung flinched at that sight. Son Woo-ryang staggered to stand up and spoke through painful gasps. I can still fight. But you look like you're going to die. No, it seemed like he was really going to die. Does a broken nose usually bleed that much? It didn't seem like he had been struck with just a fist. Chungmyeong would have to punch someone in the face without ki again to test it and find out. Son Woo-ryang supported himself with trembling legs and covered his nose with both hands. The blood isn't stopping. You're going to die, you brat. He would seriously die. No, I'm not afraid of killing people, but it shouldn't be like this. The first murder in Chungmyeong's new life was going to be from excessive blood loss after breaking a child's nose with a single punch. What bullshit. Chungmyeong, who had such thoughts, looked at Eunam. Shouldn't he get some treatment? It would turn into a murder on Mount Hua. Well, it's the rules. Eunam was so flustered at this unexpected situation that he couldn't even speak properly. In this case, there was no ruling on whether one could return to the battle after receiving treatment. In such situations, maybe he had to ask both sides for their understanding. But was the situation right now really calm enough for him to ask both sides? Slosh. At that moment, Son Woo-ryang tore off the hem of his clothes and started to stuff it into his nose. Oh, smart. The hem of the shirt was stained in blood instantly, but as he continued to stuff his nose, he somehow managed to stop the blood from flowing further. Son Woo-ryang, who managed to control his blood loss, raised his sword at Chungmyeong. Oh, is he going to continue? He knew that the Jongnam bastards don't give up easily. Such a unique bunch. Chungmyeong felt oddly proud of their tenacious culture. You cowardly bastard! Huh? Chungmyeong tilted his head. I'm ashamed! Shame on you! What you did wrong! Just focus on one thing at a time. If you're going to be angry, then be angry. If you're hurt, go get treatment. I'll tear you apart and feed you to the dogs. Chungmyeong frowned. For now, he was going to erase the compliments he had given them from his memory. Is cursing at others the only thing you Jongnam disciples learn? Maybe you just lack the wisdom to understand. Are you really saying that? Seriously, don't come out whenever you want, Sahyung. I'm trying to raise Mount Hwa's fame here now, you know? Chungmyeong clenched his sword and shook his head. I felt a little sorry for you, but that goodwill is all gone now. Just keep your mouth shut. Even if you kneel and bang your head on the ground to beg, it's late. You son of a bitch, I'll crush you so badly that your parents won't even recognize you. You're going to keep talking. Well, whatever. The last shred of sympathy that he felt vanished. Chungmyeong raised his sword and aimed it at Son Woo-ryang. Come, you fucker. Come, I'll show you what it's like to be unable to even touch your enemy. Come, right now. It was then. Son Woo-ryang. A sharp voice burst from behind. Son Woo-ryang turned his head but flinched when he saw Jin Gum-ryung's expression. Don't get excited and remain alert. Don't underestimate your opponent. Son Woo-ryang looked back at Chungmyeong. All the second-class disciples had overwhelmed their opponents without being hit even once. But Son Woo-ryang was too excited when he acted. He went up and immediately got humiliated. He grew up hearing lectures about how overexcited people cannot show their true abilities, but he forgot those lessons when he needed them the most. He took a deep breath and regained control of his mind. He felt uncomfortable that he couldn't breathe through his nose, but was able to recompose himself. After getting his breathing under control, his heated gaze seemed to change into a frigid glare as he looked at Chungmyeong. I will send you to hell! Yeah, I'm sure you will. Let's just say that'll happen. I don't really know what I did to his nose either, but he can try whatever he wants. I will show you that the disciples of Mount Hua will never be a match for the Jongnam sect. You should be prepared. Do not expect mercy. Sure. Anything else? If you're done, then hurry up. Show me that I really can't touch you. You won't even be able to touch me. Didn't I already hit you? Doesn't his nose hurt? I'll kill you, you bastard! Son Woo-ryang swung his wooden sword and rushed at Chungmyeong. As if he regained his composure, the tip of his sword moved sharply. Surely, Son Woo-ryang deserved his title as the strongest third-class disciple in the Jongnam sect. Dealing with him wouldn't be easy. Even Mount Hwa's second-class disciples would suffer at his hands. That's not even to mention the third-class disciples. But it was too bad for Sun Wuriang. He had the worst possible opponent. His enemy was the catastrophe of Mount Hua, Chongmyung. Nope. Chongmyung pulled his wooden sword back and ran at full speed at the opponent. Huh? Chongmyung's sword, which was pulled back, swung like lightning as it crashed onto Sun Wuriang's head. Pak! It was unavoidable. How can anyone avoid an invisible sword? Sun Wuriang's mouth fell open as his eyes rolled back. He's gonna die. He might die. That child is dead. Sun Wuriang's body crumpled down. However, Chongmyung had no intention of stopping. Kids, these. Pak! One more hit to the fallen. Days, don't. Pak! Once more. Have manners. No manners. Sun Wuriang's body fell to the floor and Chongmyung constantly hit him. Even I wasn't like that back in my day. If the departed up in heaven had heard that lie, they would have thrown something down to catch this liar. Sadly, those in the other world couldn't interfere with those still living. Fuck it! Pung! Finally, Chongmyung kicked Sun Wuriang in the crotch and turned away. Sun Wuriang, who soared in the air once again, fell to the floor. Thud. And Chongmyung clicked his tongue. If you didn't curse at me, I would have been gentle with you. But kids these days, no manners. Hearing that, all the third-class disciples decided to never swear in front of Chongmyung. Ah, right. Chongmyung turned back again and approached Sun Wuriang, who was convulsing. He then grabbed the robe that Sun Wuriang used to cover his nose and pulled it out. The blood which had stopped began to flow again. You couldn't even stop this? Chongmyung looked at the Jungnam sect side. Neither Sama Seung nor Jin Gomryong nor anyone else could shut their wide-open mouths. They simply stared at Chongmyung with shock and astonishment. Surprised? He hadn't even started yet, and they were already this surprised. Chongmyung glanced at them and returned to his side. Looking at his back, Sama Seung said, "What the hell was that?" But no one there knew that this was just the beginning, except for Chongmyung.